The president of the UN Security Council says the UN's most powerful body will not take its focus off Afghanistan this month, and the real litmus test for the new Taliban government will be how it treats women and girls. Ambassador Geraldine Byrne Nason of Ireland said on September 1 that the protection and promotion of human rights for women must be at the very heart of our collective response to the crisis. An international effort to evacuate members of the Afghanistan national girls soccer team, along with dozens of family members and soccer federation staff, suffered a crushing setback last week after a suicide bombing at the Kabul airport killed 169 Afghans and 13 U.S. service members during a harrowing airlift. Robert McCreary, a former congressional chief of staff and White House official under President George W. Bush who has worked with special forces in Afghanistan, said the mission, called Operation Soccer Balls, is working with other countries with the hope the girls will eventually settle in the U.S. He said Australia, France, and Qatar have expressed interest in helping. He also urged the Taliban to ease the exit for the group, saying it would create goodwill. The Taliban is a ruthless group from the past, a top American general said, noting that it remains to be seen if the organization has changed or not. We don't know what the future of the Taliban is, but I can tell you from personal experience that this is a ruthless group from the past, and whether or not they change remains to be seen, Joint U.S. Chiefs of Staff Chairman General Mark Milley told reporters at a Pentagon news conference. And as far as our dealings with them at that airfield, or in the past year or so, in war, you do what you must in order to reduce risk to the mission and force, not what you necessarily want to do, he said, responding to questions on cooperation with the Taliban. There is no rush to recognize the Taliban either by the United States or many of the countries that it has spoken to, the White House said, asserting that such a move would be dependent on what they deliver on the expectations of the global community. There's no rush to recognition from the United States or any country we have spoken with around the world. It will be very dependent on their behavior and whether they deliver on what the expectations are of the global community, White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki told reporters at her daily news conference on September 1. Chairman of the U.S. Joint Chiefs of Staff Gen. Mark Milley and Pakistan Army Chief General Qamar Javed Bajwa on September 1 discussed the current security environment in Pakistan and the region during a phone call, the Pentagon said. This was the first phone call a top U.S. official has had with Pakistan's army chief after the withdrawal of all U.S. forces from Afghanistan on August 31. Hundreds of American troops are currently in Pakistan capital Islamabad on their transit from Afghanistan to the U.S. Foreign Secretary Harsh Vardhan Shringla arrived in the United States Capitol on September 1 to hold meetings with senior officials from U.S. President Joe Biden's administration. Mr. Shringla is among the few foreign officials to be in town and the highest-level Indian official to meet top officials of the Biden administration after the withdrawal of U.S. troops from Afghanistan that brought down curtains on the 20-year-old war. In the aftermath of the Taliban regaining power in Afghanistan, a former senior American diplomat has said there is a need to closely watch China as it is making a move to take over the Bagram Air Force Base that was controlled by the United States for nearly 2 decades. America's former envoy to the United Nations Nikki Haley told Fox News on September 1 that it is time that President Joe Biden's administration reaches out to its key friends and allies like India, Japan, and Australia and assure them that the U.S. will have their back. The first thing you should do is immediately start connecting with our allies, whether it's Taiwan, whether it's Ukraine, whether it's Israel, whether it's India, Australia, Japan, all of them, and reassure them that we will have their back and that we need them as well, Ms. Haley said. The United States is looking at all possible options and routes to continue to help Americans and legal permanent residents to leave Afghanistan, U.S. Under Secretary of State Victoria Nuland told a news briefing on September 1.